Greetings, fellow travelers. Welcome to the 108th level of the RPG Cave. I am one of your hosts, the level 99 human archmage Ryan Turford, and I am joined, as always, by the level 99 elf medic, Dr. Garret Blaney. Garret, how are you doing on this lovely, lovely Monday evening? Good sir.
I'm doing good, man. Can't complain. The weather is pretty nice. It's pretty mild here in SF. Last week, we actually got some pretty bad air quality because all the fires from Oregon and Northern California were raging on and kind of blew the wind down south. And it was really weird. It was cold, but also you could just smell the smoke.
Oh my
It was
God.
just like kind of the weirdest thing going on. But we just kept inside, just worked from home. So everything's good now. The air quality is much better now, and so that is your local San Francisco weather forecast.
Oh,
How about you, Ryan?
well,
How are you
thank
doing?
you. Thank you very much. Oh, well, since you asked, Garret, it's
Yes.
been, the fall season's kind of been
Yeah.
rolling on in here in Canada. So, it's, 18 degrees outside currently.
That's not bad.
In fact, but that's going to be the high tomorrow is 18 degrees, Garret,
Oh yeah, okay.
because
Pretty
the
chilly.
weather's getting colder. It's like, it's time for hoodies and pants now, as opposed to shorts and t-shirts.
You
But,
get those fall leaves going on.
yeah.
Do you get a lot of fall, like that fall season?
We get it for about
in
3
air?
or 4 weeks, and then it goes
Ah.
quickly away because it starts snowing, and that all
That's
just
true.
goes out the window.
That's
So,
true.
yeah. I imagine by the end of October, we're going to have snow in Toronto. So
Oh, okay.
we'll find
I
out.
just see the same exact thing. There's really not much difference.
That's true. That's true. That's why I'm kind of jealous. I'm kind of jealous of that. But Garret, real quick, Steph
Yes.
wants to know what you're drinking.
I am drinking an Oktoberfest. One of them. I forgot exactly which one, but it is from Trader Joe's and it's very delicious. You know what Oktoberfest is, right, Ryan?
It's a thing people go to where they eat
It's
sausages.
a festival, of course. Yes, and you drink lots of beer and eat Wiener Schnitzel. Cheers, everyone. Yeah.
See, clearly I don't know enough about it because I don't go outside or see the sun or really do any of those things that involve people. So,
they call it Oktoberfest, but really it's in late September. Just the weird calendar conversion going on.
Is it to celebrate the fact that October is almost here? Is that
I have no idea. It could have been a pagan holiday that we've kind of just led the tradition on. I really think it's because of the beer. I think people just like to drink a lot during this time.
We don't really need to celebrate that here, Garret, because we actually currently have 2 different holidays here in Ontario that are happening within the next 2 weeks, because we got National Truth and Reconciliation Day happening this weekend. And
what
then
does that even mean?
And then next weekend, it's Canadian Thanksgiving, aka the fake Thanksgiving. So, yeah, like
that always throws me off. It's like at least 2 months away from American Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but I mean, clearly everyone says it's the real one. Even Sean Capri says it's the real Thanksgiving is Canadian Thanksgiving. He will always say that. I'm sure I'm not just putting words in his mouth or anything.
Is there a historical reason why Canadian Thanksgiving is like 2 months earlier? Is it just a different day? It's just like
there's a actual factual Canadian historical reason as to why Canadian Thanksgiving's on a different day. But I'm not going to get into that because
did the French people from Quebec kind of fraternize with all the Indians around there 2 months earlier than the English people in the US?
I would imagine that some trading of some beaver pelts was involved. Maybe some maple logs. I don't know, man. Garret, have you ever really studied Canadian history at all? Because
I didn't think there was Canadian history.
Oh man, Garret, if you grew up here and you went to school, like when you go for history class, you're not learning about the history of the world. You're learning about Canadian history. Like that's a real subject that most people learn in school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of makes sense because you're just in that country. US, we have our own US history classes.
Well, I mean, like when I was in, a kid in Texas, like I was learning all the US
Texas history. There's a legit Texas history class in middle school.
There sure is.
In elementary school. They made sure Texas history was taught before US history in our curriculum, no joke. So
that's also the only class that, as a child, I ever had to recite the national anthem. Because we always did the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning. But we never had to sing the national anthem like you do in Canada. But you only get you definitely got that in American history class, was the American national anthem.
I had to do Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge through elementary and middle school. It felt, and then once I look back at it in college, I'm like, that is very creepy.
That is a little bit weird because like when I was living in Texas, we never had the Texas Pledge. We had the Pledge of Allegiance, but not the Texas Pledge.
So. It was like a new thing. It was like maybe 4th grade or 5th grade they started. They're like, hey, we're gonna do this now, and it's like, and everyone's like, okay, I guess we'll do it, and it's just, man, you look back at it, it's like that's weird. It's a little weird, but
absolutely. Anyways. But anyways, this is the RPG Cave, not the holiday podcast. We should probably actually get into talking about role-playing games. But first, let's clear the dungeon of those pesky mobs. So folks at home, if you want to support the show, there's a number of awesome ways to do that. Number one, if you're watching the live stream right now over at youtube.com/carpoolgaming, or if you're watching the video on demand later, don't forget to like the video, hit subscribe if you haven't hit that subscribe button already. And of course, let us know in the comments below what you're excited about from Tokyo Game Show, or just the RPGs for the rest of the year. We would love to hear from all of y'all. Also, if you're listening on audio podcast, don't forget to rate us. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, maybe just leave a nice Apple Podcast review, or if you have feedback for the show, we do have the little feedback section open on Spotify. You can leave some feedback there, and we'll actually read it and address it on the show if you feel so inclined to do so. I actually made sure to check today, and there were no new ones, Garrett. So
okay.
Just throwing it out there.
We're 100% perfect. I think that's
what that's just what it's showing us. That's what it's showing.
Okay, good. Sounds good.
And then of course, if you want one big audio podcast feed with all the Carpool Gaming podcasts, you can head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/carpoolgaming. Throw a little tip in the old tip jar, and out comes content like a whole bunch of exclusive content like the Pants Patreon podcast for Patrons podcast, Carpool Gaming BTS, and a whole lot more. And last but not least, Garrett, Extra Life is coming up soon. You are wearing an Extra Life t-shirt at the moment, so it's a good reminder that Extra Life is coming up. First week in November, Rome, New York. Details are coming fast and furiously, my friends. Soon you will be hearing about Extra Life, and it's very exciting. It's a very exciting time, Garrett, for us at Carpool Gaming. I'm going to be there. Sean Capri is going to be there. Seth Sturgill is going to be there. Like, it's going to be fun, man.
It's going to be a party. I'll be there in spirit, virtually, and I'll participate for sure. I'll make sure you guys are. I was
going to say, you always usually are there in the chat. Like last year, you were there in the chat most of the time. So
yeah. Oh man, good times. I remember going to one, and it's yeah, a really cool place going to Rome, New York.
Nice.
Over there.
I still haven't had a chance to go yet. This year will be my first year going, which will be interesting. I mean, I'll actually get to hang out with Sean Capri and Seth.
Are you going to be awake for the full 24 hours? Is that your goal?
My goal is to do that, but I am very old, Garrett. So, it's one of those things where I will do my absolute best not to pull a people who will not be named of sleeping in the middle of the night, but we'll see. See,
I almost made it in for the one that I went, but I did have to drive back to Pittsburgh, and that's I think it was like a 7-8 hour drive. I don't know, something like that. I definitely needed a few hours of sleep.
See, this is why I'm doing the smart thing where it's like I took a bunch of days off, so like I'm just gonna sleep, go back to the hotel room and sleep. I will go home when I'm gosh darn awake enough to go home this time around. But because I've done Extra Life before. If I had
coffee in the will, I can go through 24 hours.
But I don't drink caffeine anymore, Garrett. I can't have caffeine, so I gotta try and stay awake with no caffeine. My secret is usually lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, actually, because that helps you keep energized.
How about tea? Does this do you get tea? Is that
it has to be non-caffeinated tea?
Does that include green tea?
There are some brands of green tea that have caffeine and some that don't.
Interesting.
Yes,
it's tricky. Tea is tricky.
Tea can be tricky, but either way, Extra Life is coming up. We're all pretty excited about it, and again, you'll be hearing more about it soon, including cool giveaways and all the plans to meet up in Rome, New York. Please be excited. Well, without further ado, Garrett, it is time to read from the sacred texts because we got a lot to get into tonight. Of course, TGS, Tokyo Game Show, just happened last week, and we wanted to talk about the best RPGs, or what we thought were the best RPGs of Tokyo Game Show 2023. Now, keep in mind, neither Garret or I went to Tokyo Game Show this year. So neither of us played any of the demos on the show floor, unfortunately. So, we can't report on that aspect. But, there were a lot of great gameplay showcases that showed off a lot of the gameplay. And then, we got a lot of great information afterwards. So we're mostly going to touch on that and then some of the news that came up. And then lots of Linster inquiries. In fact, huge thank you to everyone who, of course, wrote in for tonight's show because, we only got one thing about Tokyo Game Show, but lots of great listener questions tonight. So huge thank you to everyone for doing that as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let's start off, Garret, with I think the game that I did not expect to get the most hype from Tokyo Game Show, but clearly the game that seemed to get the most hype out of people from Tokyo Game Show, and that's Dragon's Dogma 2 from Capcom, of course.
Yeah.
Because
we
knew Dragon's Dogma was coming, Garret. There was like a short trailer for it before Tokyo Game Show. But this year at Tokyo Game Show, they had a full gameplay demo of Dragon's Dogma 2 where you had a bunch of choices and stuff like that. Plus, there was also like the Capcom had its own little showcase video, which was honestly a lot of nothing updates. But the big update was like the 9-minute gameplay demonstration of Dragon's Dogma 2. So, Garret, as the resident Dragon's Dogma fan here at Carpool Gaming, I want to know from you, where's your hype level for this game? And did you get a chance to check out this gameplay demonstration?
Yes, I checked it out. And my hype level is like over 9,000 right now with this game. Yeah. They showcased a lot out of this game. I did not anticipate at all. I think they announced it earlier this year, right? Like they announced Dragon's Dogma 2. Is it this year or last year?
I think they announced it late last year. Then they had another trailer at Summer Game Fest this year.
There's just been very minimal information coming out with this game.
We essentially had less than a minute of footage before TGS.
Yeah. I remember their reveal of Dragon's Dogma 2. They were celebrating Dragon's Dogma 1, I think 10-year anniversary or something like that. And then they're like, hey, guess what? At the end, it's announced we are in works with the sequel. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
They had a PNG and everything, Garret, of the logo. That was it.
It was kind of crazy. But anyways, they really showcased a lot. I'm still surprised that they didn't show a specific release date, but it's really safe to say 2024. It's like because they showed gameplay, really in-depth gameplay with bosses. They kind of like go through the whole foundation gameplay of Dragon's Dogma 2. You essentially have 4 different classes to choose from, and then you have 3 AI that kind of follow you around the game. This is very similar like Dragon's Dogma 1. They are sticking very true of like what was the strengths of the first Dragon's Dogma. There's a bunch of different quests and choices that you can do throughout the towns. You can travel on the wagon, or you can fast travel or whatever. This is let me tell you, Ryan, this is like beat for beat, like a true Dragon's Dogma sequel. Just think of Dragon's Dogma now with some modern features, probably another layer deeper, great graphics. It's gonna be for the PS5 and Xbox Series S and X. You can climb on monsters just like the first one too.
Well, they showed off like it was interesting was you fight like a troll or something like that, or a giant, and as you climb up its back, you can knock him over and then use like over a chasm and then use him as a bridge.
Exactly.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. So the first game did a lot of that, more like environmental kind of like breaking type of move sets. It's actually, it's funny. It's very similar to Monster Hunter in that sense. Monster Hunter has a lot of environmental damage and interactions with monsters, just very similar to Dragon's Dogma as well. So I'm super excited of what I've seen so far. I can't wait to, see what the release date is, and hopefully I'm sure we'll get a playable demo sometime next year, like maybe a month or a few months before the actual release date. My guess, I would say if they haven't set a release date at this point, I'm thinking summer, fall 2024,
That's exactly
easily.
what I was
So
thinking. I think
yeah.
like this is like a June, July, August kind of game for next year.
Mhm.
Like I think Capcom, like this, like to your point, Garrett, like both from what we saw in the gameplay demonstration, but also from hearing from people who played the demo on the show floor, like this game sounds like it's pretty close to being ready to go. Like I imagine
Yeah.
like midway through next year, this when this actually comes out.
Yeah,
Which I
yeah.
did not actually expect it to be that soon. Like when they, from the original reveal to what we saw like earlier this year, Garrett, I thought, man, this game's still really far
Mhm.
away. Like this is probably 2025. But now after what we saw here, I'm like, this is probably next
Yeah,
year
no.
at this point.
It's definitely coming out next year because the way the game is built and like how much gameplay they showed, the mechanics are there. Ryan, I think you would like particularly be interested in this game just because you can either play as like the damage DPS person, or you can play as the supporting class for your
Yeah.
AI. You can heal your units or you can give them buffs, and be destructive as a magician. Or you could be very hands-on damage like a rogue or a warrior type. Which is pretty neat. It's funny. It's very, it's so similar to the first game. I really wonder what's gonna be
Mhm.
different about it. That's what I gathered from the trailer. I'm like, this looks so similar to the first one. What's gonna be unique about this
Yeah.
second game?
Well, that's why like
Other than
I don't know, because like I hope there's some different stuff because you know it's funny you mentioned that, Garrett, because I actually did earlier this year finally play Dragon's Dogma the original for the first time, and
Mhm.
I couldn't get into it. I don't know what it
Yeah.
was, whether it
Well,
was,
I think it's
and I think
hard.
I
Yeah.
think part of it was just the visuals and kind of the clunky
Oh,
control
definitely.
style. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of that's just dated stuff because the game came out original on Xbox 360 and PlayStation
Yeah.
3. Like that's how old Dragon's Dogma is. So I think like a modern, because I thought there were great ideas in Dragon's Dogma, but I just couldn't get into the gameplay itself. So maybe a modern take on that same idea is exactly what it needs to get someone like me into this game. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
hoping for,
Definitely.
because I definitely like when this comes out, like when there's a demo for this, like I'm definitely giving it a try again, like giving
Yeah.
giving it a second look, because again, this, you're right, Garrett. Like this is the type of game that I should like, and
Yeah.
even though the first one didn't grab me, maybe there's enough modern refinements with this one that it might actually be able to do the trick. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about it, and I liked how they showed off some of the class progression as well, because they showed off some of the more advanced classes as well, and I
Mhm.
kind of liked how some of those, especially like the one that caught my eye was the archer slash healing support class. I was like, yes, that
Yeah.
looks like my jam, and I totally want to play as that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it seems really cool.
It's very cool, and I think having that kind of self with the I don't know how much it's gonna rely on the AI stuff in this game. There was a lot for the first one. But if it's a party-based system, would I know you're not that much into companions in Bethesda games, but I think kind of the major difference here and then what's in Bethesda is that like, in here they really interact with the monster. They really interact with the enemies, and they have their own skill set and their own kind of armor and weapons and stuff like that. I think there's another layer deeper of combat
Yeah,
into these type of into Dragon's Dogma games compared to Bethesda games. So I
yeah.
think it'll
And I'm
help out
cool with the
for
AI
sure.
companions in other games. It's just not really
Yeah,
my jam in Bethesda games. Like I'm totally cool with it. Even
I
in
understand.
something like Dragon's Crown or Final Fantasy 16, like those have AI companions, and I was totally fine with it. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm like I said, I'm excited to have my mind changed on this one, Garrett, and I'm hopeful because again, from what they showed, I'm like, this looks pretty promising. So I'm
Mhm.
hoping it turns out to be really good. But
Built on the RE engine as
yeah,
well. They got
yeah.
everything on the RE engine now.
Plus, at
Kind
this
of
point, like
crazy.
Capcom's on fire. Like everything they put out is good now.
Yeah.
So, like it would be very hard for me to believe that they put out some like a subpar product with this one,
Mhm.
especially after we just got the Separate Ways DLC, which is apparently really good, and then
Oh yeah.
RE4 earlier this year and some other stuff. So yeah, Capcom's.
I
I love Capcom.
definitely thinking about replaying some of Dragon's Dogma 1 just to get familiar with the systems again before diving into the second one. So maybe sometime early next year I'll go through a little bit of that.
Nice.
Can't wait.
And the other game, Garrett, that really, really, really was the talk of the show floor, and of course, people at home, was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, we did get a big trailer for this at the State of Play almost 2 weeks ago now. It was 11 days ago that went up. But then there was they had the game on the show floor. Basically, the first couple hours of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth were there. But they had this developer live stream, Garrett, where they went through like the first hour of the game, where you're exiting Midgar, kind of right where the first game really left off, where you're kind of in the open world. And it, of course, like you hear just the Final Fantasy main theme from Final Fantasy VII come in like over as you're kind of entering the field. And I got goosebumps, Garrett, when they showed that moment, because like that I have a lot of like nostalgia and childhood memories tied to Final Fantasy VII. Like that overworld music is just ingrained in my brain at this point. So I get a little misty eyed sometimes with some of the stuff that they're showing for this game. And they showed off a ton of different systems, from the ability to hire your own chocobo, to how like the smaller towns are going to work, because you're not really, since you were in Midgar in the first game, you're not really going back to Midgar in this one. You're only visiting smaller cities, and you're navigating this big open world instead of just being locked in one big city. So they showed off Calm, which was like the first city you go to when you leave Midgar in Final Fantasy VII, and it's a lot bigger than it was in the original game, because you're basically there for not very long. You're there maybe for half an hour in the original game, but there's like the city is like super populated. There's a ton of side quests. There's like so many things you can do in Calm. Like like just seeing how much they've expanded upon that just gets me really excited to see how they're going to handle some of the other cities you go to, because they tease some of the other ones in the release date trailer, like Junon. We know, of course, there's a big section of the game that takes place there with the big cannon. You've also got the gold saucer. I'm really excited to see how they handled the gold saucer in this game in particular, because I love the whole gold saucer section in the original game. So I'm really excited just to explore all these areas from the original Final Fantasy VII, but just in a new and interesting way. And this gameplay reveal that they showed off, Garrett, was like, showed me exactly what I wanted to see from this game, where it's going to be totally open from the start. You can explore it on your chocobo that you can raise, because they showed, Choco Billy's farm, which is like what the chocobo farm you go to very, very early on in the game in order to get past the Midgard serpent. And oh my God, like I could talk about this game all day, because
I think I remember that in my Final Fantasy VII Classic playthrough. I got pretty far. I got outside of Midgard. I think I got to a point where I was in a flying thing with the government. I don't know. I was like kind of around there. So
okay,
I'm a little familiar, but Ryan, I need time to play Final Fantasy VII Classic so I can play Final Fantasy VII Remake so I can play this game. So when will that be? When will I sleep? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really need to sleep, Garrett. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
I mean, these games aren't super long or anything like that. Of course not. But it sounds like this game's going to be like 100 hours long. So good luck.
I hear that, I don't know specifics of like how it compares to the original game, but I'm hearing that this game, the Rebirth, it may not even go halfway or
well, they already said where it ends. So
okay.
I will give mild location spoilers of the last location they say you go to in this, which is the Temple of the Ancients is the last place you go to in this particular game. So that is not even at the halfway point of the PS1 game.
That's what I hear. And I also hear there's a big difference between these games and what's in Classic. And what is up? I'm sorry, Ryan, but what is up with Cloud and Sephiroth having the look at each other, dancing around?
They were bros once. That's because that sequence you should remember from playing the original game, Garrett,
Yes.
where that takes place in the flashback
Yeah.
that Cloud is talking about. That's like very early on in the game, in Rebirth
Yeah.
specifically, but because that's essentially when you go to Calm, basically Cloud tells the story of how he and Sephiroth met. So
Right.
that's how that's going to play into it, because Sephiroth's going to be a playable character in this game, Garrett, because he
Yeah.
was during that segment of the original game as well. Which
Oh,
will
I
be interesting.
remember. I just, when Cloud and Sephiroth had that look, I was just like,
Oh, I know.
this story's gonna go somewhere different, I
They're
guess.
buddies. They're buddies. And then they also
I-
tease some stuff with Zach as well, and I'm like, I don't even know how that's going to play into this at all. It's going to be weird.
Zach's the one that's in the other Final Fantasy game, right?
Yeah, he's in Crisis Core. He's the main
That's
character
it. Crisis Core. Yeah. On sale right now. Go get it.
Right. But he's not in the main Final Fantasy VII. So which should be interesting. But yeah, so as a Final Fantasy VII fan, Garrett, like I am so excited about this. Like I can't wait for this game. Like it's up there with Persona 3 is probably my most anticipated game of next year. And the best part is, being a big Final Fantasy game fan, like this is exactly what I want from Final Fantasy's combat, as far as the ability to switch party members and then having magical skills and then have a little bit of the turn-based active time battle flair versus it being more of a Devil May Cry style game. Because as much as I did like 16, I do like the fact like this formula more. And I almost wish like they took this and kind of made it like the template of the style that they're going to go with all the Final Fantasy games going forward. Like,
I'm sure they'll do it with the Final Fantasy VIII remake that's about to come out too, right?
Don't even get start us about that, Garrett. We'll address that later in the show.
It'll be into 5 different games, sub games for Final Fantasy VIII.
I just want you to know that as soon as you just said that, Awesome Dave's ears just perked up. Garrett.
$70 a piece.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Oh, they did confirm though, Garrett. This is interesting. There was no card game in the original Final Fantasy VII. They confirmed there's a card game in this game.
That's it. Everyone, drop it. Drop Valkyria Chronicles. We got to go. Sorry.
We got to go.
We got to play Final Fantasy VII Classic, Remake, then Rebirth to play this minigame, because I'm being honest with you, Ryan. I'm a little obsessed of minigames more than the actual game itself. I've been playing Wheels in Sea of Stars, and I've been kicking everyone's butt in these bars, man. And I've been getting all the new figurines. It feels so, I don't know. I just get a dopamine rush whenever I beat an AI in a mini game that I'm supposed to be having fun with the video game itself. But no, I'm having more fun with the mini game. So
I'm just really, I just feel like, Garrett, if we ever got you into Final Fantasy 14, you would be the triple triad master. You would have all the cards.
That's right.
You would be like the grand master of triple triad, because that is a thing. There are triple triad tournaments that happen in that game, Garrett. You would probably be.
Is it like
triple
Gwen?
Triad master. It's kind of like Gwen.
Okay. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Good God. Although, triple triad originally originated from Final Fantasy 9, but of course it's in Final Fantasy.
Oh, I heard it. I thought it was 8. Okay. It was 9. Okay. Sounds
good. No, 8 has its own card game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They all have card games, Garrett, except for 7. 7 didn't have a card game before, but
didn't have a card game.
No.
Come on. Yeah. Give me a mini game. That would push me. That would be like, okay, this is an 8 to an 8.5 now.
There was also, like, in the original Final Fantasy VII, Garrett, there was actually originally a RTS mini game as well.
Oh, wait.
If you go, because it was optional. You go to Fort Condor, which is an optional area in the original Final Fantasy VII. And it's like these soldiers are trying to defend this fortress, and then you have to like control them, and it goes to like an overhead map perspective where you're like building troops, and then you're assigning them places on the map as like the enemies are coming up and you're fighting them. Yeah,
I love it so much.
It's really cool. Whereas they actually did that, they made that as part of the Integrate DLC for Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is
interesting. Okay, so that's the one thing that kind of bugged me with Final Fantasy VII Classic. There's so many optional areas that you can totally miss.
There's also optional characters like Yuffie or Vincent. You don't even have to recruit them in your party if you don't know what to do or don't know where to look.
I gotta have a guide when I'm playing this game.
You kind of have to play with a guide.
Yeah.
There's also again like also all kinds of optional things like the optional weapons and other like side quests that you or the chocobo breeding and stuff like that. Like Final Fantasy VII's a really deep game. If you really play.
See, I'm not bothered by that as much, but when it comes to like characters I can totally miss or areas I can totally miss,
Yeah.
that's why Baldur's Gate, I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
In fact, actually, one of the biggest story beats in Final Fantasy VII, Garrett, the original, is locked behind a hidden thing. And if you don't do something very specific and go to a specific location at a specific point in the game, you'll totally miss it. And it's one of the most important story beats in the entire game, which is weird.
See, that just sounds so not fun.
Yeah.
It's totally inconvenient, but
yeah. At least they retell that as part of Crisis
so.
Core. If you do play Crisis Core instead, that they at least like, because that's like a big part of Crisis Core is that particular moment.
Interesting.
So, yeah. But anyways, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Can't wait. I am so excited about that game. But moving on.
Okay, what's the release date for that one?
I have to look it up real quick. It is in February. Of course
it's very close to Persona 3 Reload.
It is very close. February 29th. I was about to say 26th, but it's February 29th.
And I think Persona 3 Reload is like
February 2nd.
February 2nd. Okay, you got some time. Okay.
Yeah, you got a month.
It should be fine.
I mean, you also have Grand Blue Fantasy Relink coming out the same day as Reload, and then if you're somehow into Like a Dragon, which we'll get to, like that's like a week before that. So
I'm sure Matt will have fun.
It's fine, Garrett. I'm sure that Nintendo won't just surprise us and not just have a like another January game or February game.
Another Fire Emblem remake.
Yeah. Or who knows, like maybe Metroid Prime Remastered 2 or something else. Like,
oh, I'm fine.
I mean, we do know like that genealogy of the Holy War remake is just sitting there.
It's there
at this point.
People, they're just sitting there. They're mocking me. They're teasing me. Ryan,
it'll come out at some point.
They want to just, it's like, hey, you want this? No, you can't have it. You have to wait till Switch 2, pay another $400 out of your pocket for this game.
Now you know what us Metroid Prime fans feel like, Garrett. It's torture.
My gosh.
But Garrett, I'm gonna mention this game next. This was, and some of the stuff I'm about to talk about now is from the Xbox specific showcase, which, by the way, if folks didn't check out the Xbox showcase, I thought it was actually really well done. Sean and I talked about it on Xbox Drive on Friday. But I think they had some really strong trailers there, and I think it was just a good showcase overall. But this trailer, I talked about this on Xbox Drive with Sean on Friday, but this trailer really, really got me excited for this game. Good. When they showed it at the Xbox showcase, Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. Of course, we've known about this game forever, Garrett. Of course, this was the long-running Kickstarter game from the makers of Suikoden 1 and 2. And this trailer, Garrett, for Eiyuden Chronicle looked awesome. Like, I am so stoked for this, where it looks, it's not an HD 2D game, but it looks as close as you're probably going to get without making a game in that engine. While also, being totally true to the look of, those Suikoden 1 and 2 games on PS1. Like, I really, really enjoyed what they had to show here. The story and the characters look really interesting. The combat looks fun. Like, dude, like, I was already excited about this game, but then after watching this trailer, I'm like, yes, please, just give me this game now. Even though, we have to wait till April for it to come out. April 24th is the release date for this one. But one, it's out of the way of everything else, and two, it's going to be in Game Pass. So if you're already a Game Pass person, you're gonna be able to play it just day one without having to pay for it. So yeah, I'm excited for this one. But what do you think? Where's your excitement level for this game?
Yeah, so I agree. The Xbox showcase was very cool. I went through all of it, and it was pretty strong overall. And Eiyuden Chronicles looks very solid. I think of course, Game Pass day one, so I'll definitely try it out. I haven't played Suikoden 1 or 2, but I hear they're very beloved, highly praised. It looks like that classic JRPG type of style game. So I'll definitely take a whack at it and try it out. I'm not like, oh my gosh, I can't wait, I'm so excited. But I'm like, I'm very intrigued, and it's in Game Pass, so why not? I'll definitely go for it.
I also think April 2 is like a good time for it. like as of right now, we don't really know anything else that's coming out in April at this point. So like, as long as a lot of stuff stays away from it, like I think that's a great time for this game to come out. Whereas, you know, a lot of the February stuff is just going to get lost in the shuffle because like, do you remember Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, Garrett? Because that game's
the glorified Fortnite.
Yeah, well, that game's also coming out the same day as Persona 3 Reload and Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, and I'm just like,
is it really gonna though? Is it really gonna release that day? Because
I think so. I think it's gonna release that day and totally get lost in the shuffle. Is what I think.
It's just been so quiet, man. I'm kind of scared for that game, but you know what? It's not for me in the beginning, so I shouldn't really care about it. So
I personally feel like we're going to see that game at Game Awards this year. Like they're going to be have like a big kind of trailer to reconfirm that you know it's going to be coming out in February and people should be excited about it. So we'll see, but
we'll see.
Yeah, Eiyuden Chronicles.
Oh, also, I just want to let you know the price for this Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes. I looked up. I think it's 40 USD.
Yeah, so it's not even really a full price experience, anyways, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, next up, Garrett, an announcement that got me excited. Although you and I have both already played this game, so I don't know how much we're going to probably go back and replay this one. But I think this is great news. Octopath Traveler 2 is coming to Xbox early 2024. This should have been here from the very beginning. I don't know why they decided not to launch it here, but like, when they announced this during the showcase, it was announced by the president of Square Enix. And like, this kind of furthers the thing we talked about a month and a half ago when they announced that Final Fantasy 14 was coming to Xbox. We're like, I think we're going to see much more of this now, where it's like, a lot of the backward titles that aren't locked in with agreements with Sony, I think we're going to start seeing come to Xbox from Square Enix, and anything pretty much going forward that isn't locked under an exclusive, bag of money by Sony will be on Xbox from Square Enix day and date going forward.
Yeah. I think this Octopath Traveler 2 announcement, it's low hanging fruit, because I think, with the first one being out and been in Game Pass, it seemed logical for this one to be in Xbox as well. It's just so surprising when we were talking about it wasn't on Xbox. It's playable on Windows. It's very playable on my Steam Deck. It is not a demanding game whatsoever. So yeah, it was kind of a play, I think, here for Square Enix to their benefit. It's like, hey, this is a good game that we can port over, not lose any risk to it, compared to our Final Fantasy franchise, which, as we know, it's very closely related to Sony and PlayStation a lot more than Xbox, for the time being. That I'm just a little worried. This relationship going forward, it looks like a lot of more smoke and mirrors to me. This is a low hanging fruit game. Like this, as you said, Ryan, this should have been from day one beginning, and now they're doing it now. And I think that just when this game releases and they just show the sales, Square's gonna be like, see, no one wants to play Octopath Traveler 2 on Xbox. And it's just like, well, because they're playing it on PC or
they played it a year ago, essentially. Because I imagine this comes out like in February of next year, to kind of like make it be like 1 year exactly after the last ones came out, or after the original came out. So like, yeah, I think that it kind of gets lost in the shuffle at that point because people have already played this game, which is too bad. But at the same time, I don't think it's a smoke and mirror thing, Garrett. I think it's just they can only turn the ship so quickly, and I think like
that's true.
They don't want to probably announce like, here's a bunch of games coming to Xbox without like, being far enough into development to do that. So like, that's why I think it's like too early for it. In fact, again, I really feel like there's more to it than just that, because of the fact that Final Fantasy 14 specifically is coming, because that game is so big, both from, a subscriber base side, but also from, a maintenance side, from how much time is going to have to go into developing an Xbox version of that game. Like, I feel like they wouldn't put that effort in if they didn't feel it was worth it, or if there wasn't more to bringing their games to Xbox, or if they didn't want to try and at least do that. So
yeah, I get it. So I hope I really hope Xbox leaned into the Game Pass part of for these games, because I think that's really the biggest thing to do to to bring exposure to their audience, really, for these type of games. If you just kind of just leave them out on the console market, for the Xbox console market, we know it's not super strong in Japan. It's not going to do that strong in the US too, just because people really haven't heard of it or just don't want to buy it a la carte. So I hope, they have just a slope drip feed rotation of, it doesn't have to be major Square Enix games. It could be
Yeah.
very small Square
No, I
Enix
think you're
games
going to see
that
all the side stuff first,
Mhm.
like Valkyrie Elysium
That would
or
be cool.
Fiat Rhythm. Like, I
Yeah.
think a lot of that stuff that skipped Xbox will come over.
Harvestella and
Yeah.
I would love to see that just in the rotation. It doesn't have to be all at once, right? I imagine Octopath Traveler 2, I still think it could be on Game Pass
Yeah.
day one. I did
Me
it
too.
just holding that announcement. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I think definitely, like, we'll hear about that probably
Mhm.
when Game Awards happens. Like, I imagine that
Yeah.
that's like a Game Awards pre-show announcement where they announce, hey, here's the release date for Octopath Traveler 2 on Xbox and it's on Game Pass. Because they did that something similar with Dragon Quest 11 when it came to Game Pass, where they had
Yeah.
it like a very, very short thing, kind of like in the pre-show for Game Awards. So,
Mhm.
Rival, of course, saying Various Day Life, the real one. Who knows?
Oh
Maybe
my
Various Day
goodness.
Life come to Xbox. Also,
Let it
Garrett, now,
die.
now the flip side situation is also happening, where now Octopath Traveler 1 and 2 will be on Xbox, but only Octopath Traveler 2 is on PlayStation.
That's the weirdest thing. I'm sorry, PlayStation. And I think I remember us talking about Octopath Traveler 1 early on PlayStation. It's just Square Enix is like, oh, it didn't make sense at all. It's just like,
Are you sure?
this is weird. This
Yeah.
is so weird. But anyways.
Yeah. Right, moving on, we got Like a Dragon Gaiden, of course, is coming to Game Pass day and date. Well, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is coming to Xbox on January 26th. It's not on Game Pass, but I think the people who are excited for Like a Dragon were very excited to get this release date. And of course, this was announced at the Wacky and Wild RGG showcase, Garrett,
Yeah.
where I did not live react with Matt this time around, but when we did that last time, that was a crazy show. Let me tell you what. But people are excited about this. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna, go back and play this, because I just, kind of fell off halfway through Yakuza Like a Dragon. But I'm excited. People are excited about this.
Yeah. No, I'm very excited too. Ryan, are you sure Infinite Wealth is not on Game Pass? I think it
Yes,
is.
they did not announce that it's coming to Game Pass, because they announced Like a Dragon Ishin is coming to Game Pass in October, and then they announced Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man with no name,
Oh.
coming to Game Pass in November.
Oh,
Day.
I see. Infinite Wealth,
Yeah,
not.
because
Okay.
Infinite Wealth is the new RPG. Like, that's what we care about on the show, is RPG.
Yes, that's what we care about. Yeah, definitely. Okay. I think I understand. So, Infinite Wealth. I'm moderately excited. I want to finish Like a Dragon first. I kind of dropped in the middle of it as well. Man, these games are they have their own style for sure.
Yep. They're
Totally
weird and
Japanese.
goofy, but
Very weird, very goofy. I love it, dude, though. Of what I played, I really enjoyed it. I just think I get so many distracted with other games and just drop off others. But I've always mean to go back to Like a Dragon and just wrap that up. So I probably should before I head over to Infinite Wealth. Plus, they're going to Hawaii.
that's true.
So cool.
That's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
But,
Been to
yeah.
Hawaii actually recently this year, so I'm wondering the the Japanese port, how they portray
Well, they
Hawaii.
went to
Oh,
Hawaii in
wacky
Persona
Hawaii.
5, Garrett.
They did they?
They did.
Wait.
That was
Oh,
when they went on
was
the
that the
school
summer
trip.
trip?
Yeah, the summer trip was
Oh.
Hawaii in
Oh,
Persona
okay.
5.
I knew it was beachy. I didn't know it was Hawaii, but okay,
Yeah.
cool. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
That was a whole thing in that game. But yeah, that's a game where I'm like, I'm moderately interested, because I love the combat in Yakuza Like a Dragon, but man, that story was it was too much. It was
It
so
gets
much talking.
everywhere, man.
Yeah.
I was like reading and reading so much because I wanted to do in the Japanese voice acting, because I feel like that has a lot of good voice acting in there. I'm just like, man, there's just so much reading going on.
It was like reading a novel.
It's good though. It's a very solid turn-based RPG. I'm very excited to what these other Like a Dragon games. Isn't there one where Ichiban and that other main protagonist kind of join together, unite together? Too. Is it one of them?
Well, that's this, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is when the two characters.
Oh, is that it? Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because yeah, I'm trying to remember his name, but Like a Dragon Gaiden is not about Ichiban, it's about the other character.
It's about the other main protagonist. Okay,
yeah,
cool. That's good.
Yeah, but that's also a brawler. We don't care about brawlers here, but
yeah, that's true.
Games we do care about though, Garrett. Last two games I want to touch on real quick. Both had kind of small trailers. They had some great impressions from the show floor as well. Of course, Persona 3 Reload got yet another story trailer, Garrett. And of course, it just looks even better than last time. And I'm like, yep, please give me that game right now. Also, did you see, Garrett, today that they Limited Run Games announced that they have the licenses to Persona 3 and Persona 4, and they're doing like big physical special editions for both games?
Oh, I saw the Persona 3 portable announcement. Which
they cool. mentioned the golden one's coming, but they haven't announced that when they're going to reveal what's in it. But the pre-orders for it go up at the end of October, I think. So that's why they're waiting on it.
But, and then you're going to have to wait another 5 years until you get it.
That is kind of how Limited Run Games worked. So
yes.
But either way, Persona 3 Reload still looks amazing. Can't wait for that game.
Yeah, no, that looks so good. I can't wait for that game. I'll be there day one.
Yeah.
I don't have any distractions.
Of course. And then the last one that actually caught me by surprise, Garrett, because there was literally no hype level for this one from me going into this. But during the Xbox showcase, they had the trail for this Infinity Strash Dragon Quest: The Adventures of Dai. This is actually based off the anime and manga series for Dragon Quest, and not actually based off any of the Dragon Quest games themselves. But this is actually an action RPG in the Dragon Quest universe, where you actually select as like a bunch of different characters, and you go around and there's this big kind of epic story, and it looks like super interesting. Like this game, we saw a trailer for it earlier this year. I think it was actually at either at Summer Game Fest or the Xbox showcase over.
It was at the Xbox showcase.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, that looks interesting. But then when I saw the trailer during the Xbox showcase, I'm like, this actually looks like a game I could see myself playing. Which is, I don't get to say about Dragon Quest very often, Garrett, because everyone knows, if you've listened to the show for a while, I'm not the biggest Dragon Quest person at all. But I think like this type of game might actually make me want to play it. So I'm keeping my eye on this one on reviews, because I think if it reviews well, I may take a chance on this one, Garrett, and play it.
And it's coming to Xbox.
It is coming to Xbox. Well, that's where I would play it for sure. 100%.
Yeah. They have a full article on the Xbox Wire about this game. Yeah. And it looks really dope. It reminds me of the recent was it Trials of Mana game? Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of too. That's why I was like, okay, this seems like a game that might actually be pretty fun.
Yeah, it looks super cool, very cartoonish. It has that, Dragon Quest style / it reminds me more of Dragon Ball Z, to be honest.
Right. Well, yeah, it looks like it's fully in the Toriyama style, way more than something like Dragon Quest 11 was. In fact, too, one of the other reasons I'm more excited about it too is you've got like fully acted cutscenes versus all the reading in Dragon Quest 11, because that was one of the most boring parts, was reading all the dialogue in Dragon Quest 11, and it was also like reading a book in the same way that like a dragon was. So it's just like
Dragon Quest are novels, let me tell you. They're novels first and foremost.
Yeah, like I just felt like the content felt so dry in Dragon Quest 11, whereas like this doesn't feel like this from what we're seeing from the game. So
it looks so stylish, to be honest with you.
I am very intrigued in this one, so I wanted to make sure to give it a shout out here, because I also heard some people talking about it who were at TGS and had nothing but good things to say about the demo that was there. So
that's super cool. It looks like in Xbox Wire they interviewed the producer Takumi Kasai on some questions about it, and the pictures, oh my gosh, these screenshots look so good. Yeah, they remind me of a a Trails game,
Mhm.
or no, not Trails. Sorry, Tales.
Tales, yeah.
Game for sure, because they're action RPGs.
So
Man, so cool.
it looks pretty cool. But let's bring in the Muffin Mon, Kevin Ainsworth, who asks, the biggest announcements from me at Tokyo Game Show were Like a Dragon, Gaiden coming to Game Pass, and Infinite Wealth's release date. Yakuza Like a Dragon is one of my favorite games, maybe ever, and we can't wait to continue the story. Thank you so much, Kevin, for letting us know
Thank
what
you,
you're
Kevin.
excited about. Because again, I want to get the sense of what people were excited about, and I'm glad Kevin wrote in and let us know. But Garrett, we got a whole bunch of questions tonight, and they are not related to Tokyo Game Show at all. So let's go through some of them. Let's start with Miles of Amanda. Of course, shout out to Miles of Amanda, first of all, brand new member of the Carpool Gaming team, but also first time writing into the RPG Cave. So huge thank you for writing in, Amanda. She asks, unrelated but related question. What tips do you have for me in my first playthrough of Octopath Traveler 2? Are there any secret/Easter eggs I should be on the lookout for? So first off, Drellesh, when he saw this question, just went to town and just posted like 10 different videos of like where to find all the secrets and Easter eggs and secret weapons and stuff. And I'm like, cool. Yeah. There's the resources right there, Amanda. You don't need to tell me about it to tell you about those things. Honestly, I didn't really stray from the beaten path too much anyways and go for a lot of the secret stuff. Because when I was playing it earlier this year, I just didn't have a ton of time to do all that stuff because there were other games to play. So I mostly just focused on playing through the story and going through that. And I had a great time. That's why, like, honestly, Amanda, I think you should just jump in and have fun with it and not worry too much about it. Go through each person's individual story, and then, but make sure to kind of do them all before kind of continuing the going to the chapter 2 of anyone's story, and then just picking your path from there and just having fun with it.
Yeah, that's good. I think for me, I'm still not finished with it. I got halfway through the last chapters of the main of all the characters, and it's a beefy game for sure. So when you say first playthrough, I don't know how many playthroughs you're expecting out of this game. But I think what I would look up if you're struggling to go through the next chapter or the next level because it's just too advanced of bosses or whatever, just look up some tutorial videos of like grinding, or look up videos of like party matchup or certain things, because there are kind of tips and tricks to like kind of go through the game, I would say, more efficiently than, because there's a way to grind hours and hours upon hours, or there's just a way to just grind like an hour as much as, like, if you just did it for 20 hours another way. I would definitely look up like a video or two. It's like, hey, this is a good farming spot, grinding spot, to catch you up on some levels so you can just go through the story. And that's what I mainly did. I was like, okay, I got to a point in the middle of the game, I'm like, I'm too weak to do any stories. And really, the side quests in this game, I don't particularly care for. They're just very vague fetch quests. They don't even give you experience. They give you items instead, which is very in money as well, which is helpful. But honestly, it's better off if you just figure out a way to farm some levels, and you'll get money will come with that as well.
For sure.
It'll make it easier on you. But very fun game from a story perspective, from a combat turn-based perspective, and art, music, everything else is just top-notch. Very superb game. So go for it.
I just hope you enjoy it, Amanda. I know you're going to be playing on stream, so excited to see how that turns out. Next up, we got Yarden, who asks, should DLC or expansions be allowed in the Game of the Year discussions? Skip if you've answered this before, but what are your favorite all-time DLC or expansions? First of all, Garrett, do you even really play DLC for games that often?
I do.
But like, we've talked about it in a couple corner cases, but like, I've never really had a discussion about DLC before, so I'm curious.
No, not too much. And I think I haven't played too much DLC in like later games, like recent games. I think one exception, Xenoblade. I actually even played Xenoblade Chronicles 3's DLC, which I hear is pretty good too. But yeah, I think DLC and expansion can be in the conversation. And you can justify it if you want to make it like game of the year discussion. But I would really if okay, I think if it's standalone DLC, you don't even need the base game. I was okay, you can treat that as a separate game if you want, but just keep in mind that there are people. If you're saying this is a game of the year, you're gonna assume people are gonna play this and not know anything or not have played the previous game itself. So it's kind of unfair. But that being said, Witcher 3 Blood and Wine DLC. My gosh, it is just so good. It's so good. And it's not really connected to the Witcher base game at all. Like you need to be a certain level. Um and I think you can like actually click a button to beat that level and to just play Blood and Wine. But yeah, that's just like that's a special case. To see if it's game of the year discussion. I don't know. What do
Yeah.
you think, Ryan, about
So
this?
yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing because 2 years ago in 2021, my favorite game of the year at Carpool Gaming was an expansion pack. In
Okay.
our DLC show, or not our DLC show, our game of the year show, my favorite game of the year that I pitched for that show was in fact an expansion pack for a game, because Final Fantasy 14 Endwalker is one of the
Yeah.
best pieces of video game media I've ever played in my entire life, and it was an expansion pack. So yes, I feel like you can entertain that thought, but similar to Garret, I feel like the game itself, like the DLC itself, has to stand enough on its own to kind of be considered its own thing, or to give you enough as much value as a normal game would give you. Because like
Right.
that's one of the reasons why I would nominate something like Endwalker, because even though you have to have the base game of Final Fantasy 14, it provides more content than the base game for almost any other game you would even play. Like full stop.
Wow.
But and not just both with the gameplay, but even just the main story. The main story is 50 to 60 hours long in Endwalker, which is about as long as your typical role-playing game would be. So like from that perspective, I would consider it enough of an experience that I would consider it for a game of the year situation. And similar with standalone games, I feel like you hit the nail on the head with that, Garret. Like something like, even though it didn't blow me away, something like Infamous First Light, as an example,
Right.
would be the type of game and experience that I could totally see nominating for game of the year if it was good enough to fit in that perspective. In the same way that, Miles Morales, even though it was a standalone game, it really just felt like DLC for, Spider-Man on PS4. And in fact, it was, only a couple hours long, and it was super short. And again, it just felt like a DLC pack. But it's in its own package. But I felt like, I would be perfectly comfortable nominating something like that for game of the year. So kind of like that's why I feel like there's some good overlap that happens there. As far as my favorite DLC expansions, one of them that comes to mind is just the overall package of Mass Effect DLC for both 2 and 3, especially 2, because I loved the DLC expansions for 2, especially Lair of the Shadow Broker, which I really enjoyed. That was with where you team up with Liara and you're going to, the Shadow Broker's hideout, and you kind of meet that character for the first time, because you'd been hearing about the Shadow Broker since the like early parts of the first Mass Effect, but like you never saw who the Shadow Broker was. So I thought like it was really cool if they were kind of exploring characters that you'd only heard about tangentially in the Mass Effect universe. And of course you had something like Mass Effect 3 Citadel, which kind of really is like the true conclusion to Mass Effect 3 in a lot of ways, where you're kind of saying goodbye to all your party members, and you're just hanging out with people, and just it's not about the combat, but it's more just the experience of talking with your friends, like the friends you made along the way. Like I thought like that was really special DLC. Fallout 3's DLC
It's great.
We're all really pretty solid. I really enjoyed the DLC for that game. So I do like DLC. I'm not always over the moon for DLC. In fact, most of the time, like expansions are more what I get excited about. Things like old traditional PC expansions like StarCraft Brood War or Jedi Knight 2 Mysteries of the Sith. Like those are the type of things that Ryan got very excited about when it came to DLC. So
yeah. So I would say for me, Blood and Wine, Witcher 3, and also it's not, was it Hearts, not Hearthstone, or it's Heart, I forgot exactly what the first DLC pack for Witcher 3, but that one was pretty good. And then also Tiny Tina's Wonderlands and Borderlands 2. That was a DLC pack. And that, I think that was kind of like the genesis or the birth of the Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, the full game later on. So I really enjoyed that as well. So yeah, I think DLC, it has enough content, as you said, warrants a discussion.
And also I just think like you and I just don't play enough DLC. One, because there's enough games that are played already, but two, it's just like a lot of times DLC comes out pretty far after when the game comes out. So it's just sometimes it's just harder to go back. Like as excited as I am for there being like a sequel, a pseudo sequel to Tales of Arise coming out with its expansion coming out in November, like it's going to be 2 years after that game came out.
It's kind of crazy, isn't
that DLC comes out. So just like, and it's going to be like end game DLC. I know it's going to be like, well, you're gonna have to remember how to do all the stuff. But like, I haven't played that game since I beat it in 2021. So like, I don't know like how, like it's tough to be excited about that DLC. Like I want to play it, but
yeah, and I think Yarden's question, what motivated it was because of Cyberpunk. Yeah. And I think CD Projekt Red is doing it right, where it's like, okay, we know it's been a little long since our initial release date. Why don't we just give them a full refresh and repaint of the full game for free as a 2.0 update, and then along with it, conjoining with this huge DLC expansion. I don't know, man. CD Projekt Red, even though they kind of stumbled with Cyberpunk's release date, and they really just didn't need to put it on PS4 and Xbox One at all. Other than that, they know how to treat DLC and expansions quite well to their games. So I'm very excited to once I'm done with Starfield, I think that'll be the next big RPG I want to go after is Cyberpunk, because I just want to go through the 2.0 update. Sure.
Same here. So, like I'm Cyberpunk's on my radar. Like I do want to play through it with the 2.0 update because I played it before, but didn't finish it. I got like 3/4 of the way through and then stopped. But you kind of have to start over again with this update where you kind of do. You could load your old save, but one, it's been so long since I played it that I wouldn't remember what to do. But two, it's just like at that point, they've changed so much. It's like you might as well just start from the beginning at that point. So yeah. Cool. Well, next up, we got Antics, who asked the question, with how many incredible RPGs have released in 2023, there's bound to be a few that slipped under the radar. What is the most underrated RPG this year that you would consider a must play? And a potential follow-up, what's one that you felt that was overhyped and didn't enjoy as much as you thought it would? So here's the thing. This is kind of tricky, Garrett, because like, I don't know about you, but there's a lot. I don't really feel like too many RPGs in particular slipped under the radar, at least the ones that I played. If I was to look on the outside looking in, I could bring up a couple that I just haven't played, but so I can't really speak too much of on myself. But like the two that came to mind that I played that I think would kind of fall into this category, Theatrhythm Final Bar Line. Of
course.
Seth and I were obsessed with it, but I literally know no one else who played that game. And of course, it is more of a music game, so I get why, RPG fans wouldn't be totally into it, despite the fact that it's a music role-playing game. But man, that game was so good. And the fact that no one talks about it is kind of criminal a little bit. And then the other one, it flew under the radar because at launch, it had a pretty bad launch. But now that it's been fully patched and upgraded and it's gotten great DLC, like, I think Forspoken is a game that people should give another look to.
Interesting.
This year, because It's one I talked about on the show a few months ago that I went back and played and really enjoyed. I actually think Forspoken is actually a really good game. It's actually a pretty solid
That's good.
RPG. And again, it had a lot of performance issues at launch. All that stuff's been fixed. And it had some cool DLC too. So like, I actually think that's a game now that if people missed it, if it flew under your radar, like that's the one I would kind of point to. And the other one, Garrett, that I'd throw in here that I haven't played, that I know people missed or just haven't heard anyone talk about, is Atelier Ryza 3 is the other one that kind
That's
of like
true.
came and went as well. That was also in like the February pack of games this year that just no one played as well. But
Yeah, I think Atelier, well, the Atelier games in general and Atelier Ryza, they do speak to a niche audience.
they do.
So I'm not too surprised that people didn't pick up on it, even though I think Atelier Ryza, the past three games are the most accessible and pretty fun RPGs over there. So
Right.
yeah, definitely. For me, the one that really flew under the radar, and I kind of dropped it too. So, but I think it was very worth my time playing a little bit of it, is Chained Echoes, and that one came out late December of last year. But it's still on Game Pass, and it's a very, very solid indie JRPG, turn based. It has its own type of combat mechanics, of course, heavily inspired by a lot of 90s, mid 90s JRPGs, but has its own kind of flair and story. And I think and the music's pretty good too. Overall, I think it's a very solid RPG that if you have Game Pass and you like RPGs, I would definitely try that one out for sure. So yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be the one I would say.
Also, I want to bring up, I just thought of two while you were talking, Garrett. One,
Hmm.
Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. I
Eh,
don't know anyone else who actually played that game, Garrett.
that's a weird one, wasn't it? Like it just
Yeah.
came and gone,
Yeah. It came
it
and
got
went.
delayed. And so the hype kind of just lost, and then like, oh, it's back up. It's gonna get released. It's released. Now it's gone.
Yeah.
I initially was hyped for this game. I think what really dropped my hype for this, I think there was just too many other games to play, but also like I think, other of these type of games really caught on. Like I'm very excited for Wargroove 2
Yeah.
that's about to come out next month. And it's available for $16 instead of $60 that was Advance Wars. And I look at Advance Wars and I'm like, well, I mean, you can play the original and then you'll get the overall same experience, like mechanics wise, it's the same game. So I don't know. It's kind of very hard to justify shelling out $50 or $60
True.
for this one.
It also might, we might see the same thing when Mario versus Donkey Kong comes out early next year as well, because
That's
it's
true.
in a very similar situation. Just not getting delayed will probably help that game, I guess. But
Yeah, yeah,
and
definitely.
then the other one I wanted to bring up, which I was reminded of it when you talked about Chain Echoes, which also came out very late last year, but it was PC only when it came out. But now is finally coming to consoles. I just picked up the PlayStation version for 13 Canadian dollars because it just came to PlayStation. This Way Madness Lies from Zeboyd Games,
Oh,
which
yeah.
I'm actually like
Cool.
really, really excited to play. I've heard nothing but good things about it. It's like the Sailor Moon inspired RPG that crosses over with Shakespeare style
Nice.
dialogue. So like I'm super interested to check that one out. And I finally have it because again, I wanted to wait until it came to PlayStation to play because I didn't want to get it on Switch, and I didn't want to play it on PC. So, and I don't know if that ever comes to Xbox. So I was just like, I'm just gonna bite the bullet and get on PlayStation now. But
Hmm. Hmm.
all right, next up we got Darth Stridius who asks, with Hideki Kamiya leaving Platinum Games, does this worry you about the future of Platinum Games? Also, another question: why is Aerith and Tifa better than Rinoa? And we'll touch on Hideki Kamiya. I mean, Platinum, I feel like has kind of been in trouble for a while. I mean,
Mm.
their games are great, but like their games just for the most part aren't really big sellers. Like Bayonetta
Yeah.
3 was a big flop for them. financially. From what we
Oh,
heard.
really? Oh, okay. Okay.
Like I don't
I don't know.
I don't even think that hit 1 million units for Bayonetta 3
Oh, really?
on
Wow,
Switch.
that's surprising.
Yeah.
Given the Switch install base is being huge, you know. But yeah, I hear Bayonetta 3, the performance wise wasn't that great either.
I'm gonna correct myself.
Yeah.
1.04 million units sold was what was last
Okay.
reported. So
Okay.
I corrected myself. I am sorry. Still though, I still don't think that
That's still
game
just over
stinks.
1 million units.
Well, that's
yeah.
so that's like not even close to the sales of something like Metroid Dread, as an example. So like
Right.
I feel like that's why, like, I don't know what, like, because again, I think Platinum makes good games. They also have some not so good games as well, because that's kind of like the Platinum curse a little bit. But it's just like, yeah, like I feel like I don't even think Hideki Kamiya leaving was the telltale sign. I just feel like when was the last time we talked about like a big Platinum game?
Yeah, I think the two that really comes to mind is Near Automata and then also Astral Chain. Those are like the big two.
But those were like 2017, 2018. Like that was a long
Yeah,
time
yeah.
ago.
It's been a few years. And of course Babylon's Fall was a big flop and we kind of
Yeah.
that was written in the tea leaves. Like that was kind of expected. Bayonetta 3 was a weird one because it was showcased a lot, you know, for the Switch or whatever, you know, huge successes for Bayonetta 1 and 2, and it comes out and it just struggles
Yeah.
on the Switch hardware and doesn't do as well. So
And then
I'm
you've got
very
Bayonetta
curious.
Origins, which I forgot about too from earlier this
That's
year,
true.
where it's
That's
just like,
true.
I don't know
I heard
anyone
it's
but
okay.
Luckleth. I know. I heard it's a good
Yeah.
game, but it's just like,
Mhm.
other than Luckleth, I don't know anyone else who's played that game. So
Yeah, it was a very interesting angle of the Bayonetta franchise.
yeah.
So I wonder what's their direction
Yeah.
about it. You know, I can imagine an Astral Chain sequel being kind of the next big one for them. I honestly don't know too much about this guy, Hideki,
Well,
right?
he's like the face of Platinum Games.
Okay.
He was the president of Platinum Games, and he was like the director on like the Clover Studio games before they became Platinum Games. So like he's been like the guy, the figurehead, the
Okay.
person who controls the vision of Platinum Games for forever. So like
Hmm.
this signals to me like a big change in direction from Platinum Games. It doesn't
Yeah,
necessarily
that's
mean they're down
interesting.
and out, but it just means like big changes for the direction of Platinum going forward.
It sounds like they're just, you know, wanting to, you know, survive,
Yeah.
sustain themselves somehow. So we'll see where they go
Yeah.
after this.
We'll see. Again, I hope that everything turns out okay, because I think to my point earlier, I think they make great games. It's just a lot of them just don't really, aren't the biggest sellers or anything like that. But they also usually budget their games accordingly. So,
Yeah.
as you might. And last thing, Garrett, we almost soft banned this person from asking questions, but we do
Almost.
not soft ban people from asking questions on the RPG Cave, because
You
those are
can be the first though.
no, that's how nice we are. That's how we're nice people, Garrett. Because Awesome Dave wrote in and said, unrelated to TGS 2023, but why is the best game to be announced and released around the time of year TGS takes place is Final Fantasy VIII? For those that do not know, North American release was on 9/9/99. And the answer to your question, Awesome Dave, is we answered on last week's show, because Parasite Eve was the best game to
Of
launch
course.
during the same time frame that TGS happens, because it also launched in September 25 years ago. And if you want to know why we like Parasite Eve so much, go back and listen to last week's episode, because we told you why we like it a lot.
I really wonder in my lifetime I'm gonna play Final Fantasy VIII. It just
You don't need
sounds
to.
so it's a random one for sure. Like seven's like probably the number one. I'll probably play Final Fantasy 7 at some point in my life.
Right.
But 8, I don't hear it. It's 5, 8, and I think those are like the two big, like the oddballs. In 14, of course, 11, 14, I won't really play as
Well, yeah,
much
because
either.
they're MMOs, but no,
Yeah.
15 is probably an oddball one, I would say.
15 one's an oddball, but 15 I think is more accessible, I would
Well,
say.
that's true. And well, they'll
compared
fit.
to 8 and 5.
But I mean, like 5 is way more accessible too, because like 5 plays just as well as 4 and 6 do on Super Nintendo. And it just didn't release in North America originally. Like it came to North America first on the PlayStation when they did kind of the Final Fantasy re-releases there. And that's how everyone got a chance to play Final Fantasy V. But like Final Fantasy V is one of my favorite games in the series, Garrett. So
interesting. Okay.
I actually think it's a much better game than it kind of gets credit for. Whereas 8, I don't hate 8 in the way I hate 10. I just personally am not super into it. That's all. Yeah. And Rybo agrees with me. 5 is pretty good though. See?
Interesting.
There you go.
Okay. Cool.
In fact, I'm just going to throw it out there, Garrett. I would rather play Final Fantasy Mystic Quest over Final Fantasy 8 or Final Fantasy 10 again.
Ooh, that's saying something.
But I don't know. I think Final Fantasy 8 is better than Final Fantasy 2. So at least it's got that going for it. But
okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I need to hear your ranking at one point.
I should do that at some point. Final Fantasy, that should be an episode like 1 week, Garrett. Whenever you want to take a week off, I should just do a solo episode tier ranking the Final Fantasy games, including the side
and
games.
just I want these other fools to just rip their ears apart as you just like slander 10.
Well, I mean, that's going to happen anyways, because you remember what happened when I talked about my favorite Zelda game. So
that's true. Yeah.
Everyone knows I've got the hot takes when it comes to games. Like I fully understand now from podcasting this long, Garrett, that people do not have the same taste in games as me, and that's okay.
That is okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own taste.
Yeah. I mean, people are allowed to be wrong sometimes, Garrett. It's fine. I get it.
True.
All right. I think that's enough Final Fantasy 8 at this time. But before we go, Garrett, plugs go.
You can follow me on X/Twitter at Blind Explosion. And you can also find me on the Discord. I am very active on the RPG Cave, the Xbox Drive, Nintendo Drive, and PlayStation Drive, not as much, but definitely the Xbox Drive. I am constantly in that Starfield channel, and I am annoying you. I am bombarding you with insane mods and Twitter videos. Today, Ryan, let me tell you, I found a video so dope. Someone made a entirely self-sustaining city within Starfield, like an outpost, has their own resources, it's fully automated, so it just carries it to the ships, and they got crew just sending it out. It's fully operational, and
you don't even have to do anything yourself.
It looks so good. It's like that. Actually, I think it calls a previous RPG Cave episode where I mentioned the game Factorio being a more RPG stylized game. This is it. Starfield made it. It is. There's a Factorio semi-automation element to it, and I just want to play that game so much. I'm in the Starfield craze right now. Oh man. So
it's gotten to the point where Rybo says he may need to ban you because of how much you bombard people, Garrett.
I want like a full Starfield episode. I don't know if we're going to do in the RPG Cave or Xbox Drive. I'll talk to Sean. I'll talk to whoever who wants to talk.
You have to talk to the people to make it happen, Garrett.
Please.
We have the power, Garrett. We have the power and the personnel to make a Starfield episode happen at some point.
Yeah. I need a first playthrough, like a lot of it, before I'm beginning to have a conversation with it. But man, it's so good. I love it.
Well, as for me, you can find me on the old X at Ryan Turford. You also find us on the old X as Carpool Gaming, right here, youtube.com/Carpool Gaming. Of course, podcast services around the globe. So for Garrett Bland, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been the 108th level of the RPG Cave, and we're out.
Bye-bye.